I got to a point where I was struggling so much that I had to go get mental help. And I remember walking into the office, talking to my boss at the time, and I said, hey, I'm looking at my life right now, and I don't want to be here. I need to figure it out. And then he's like, man, you got so much to live for. You got so much going on. I'm like, that's not what you see. It's not what I feel. And he directed me over to get some help. And that was the best decision I made in my life, was to get some help.
Welcome to the Tango Tango podcast. Real, raw, and unfiltered conversations with veterans and those who support them. Tune in, be inspired, and walk away stronger.
Welcome to the Tango Tango podcast. Top talks or honest discussions with retired first sergeants. And man, I'm so happy. I've got a fellow Bush Institute VLP Veterans Leadership Program graduate and one of my new friends. We got Dr. Casey Castille joining us today. And hey, he's joining from the VFW outside of Orlando, Florida. So that's why he's got the sexy backdrop today. Hey,
oh,
Casey.
no, we moved.
Yeah.
We moved, Lloyd. I'm in Miami.
Holy
I'm
cow.
in the VFW in Miami.
In Miami.
Beach. Literally off the water.
I talked to him yesterday and he was in Orlando. So Casey, welcome to the podcast. Thank you, brother, for getting on and doing this.
Thanks, brother, man. Hey, as we both know, man, been trying to get our schedules in line. I was having the FOMO. I was like, wait, hold on, man. I see all these great people on Lloyd's show, man. I'm like, what do I have to do to get on the Tango Tango show?
I had to take care of one of your former bosses first. We had Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force retired Joe Bass, which we'll talk a little bit about. But hey, Casey, I want to get to know you, brother. Where'd you grow up at?
Man, I grew up in Lafayette, Louisiana. I like to say home of the world's largest crawfish boil. What? And so grew up all the way up to the age of 18 and joined the Air Force at 18. And just a guy that's from the boot.
I did too. I joined in 18 out of Radcliffe, Kentucky. But hey, before we get into the Air Force, let's just take it back a little bit. What did your childhood look like?
Oh, man. I didn't know you was going this deep there, Lloyd. Now you take me too much. I mean, look, my childhood was one. I said this at my retirement, and I never want to disrespect people who have raised me, the people who are part of my journey up to the age of 18. But what I shared during my retirement was I grew up in a home where it wasn't until I was an adult I realized that the people around me loved me the best way they could. Right. And so what that means is that what I now know of how to raise kids was different than what I saw. Not that life was always bad, but humble beginnings. Grew up in the hood. You know, I like to say I was raised by the Boys and Girls Club, because once I joined the Boys and Girls Club, I learned about a different world out there. I learned that you can actually leave Lafayette, Louisiana, where area in which I live was called Fightonville. And so I learned that I can leave Fightonville and actually go do something in the world that could be meaningful. I grew up around individuals who were some good people, but also I grew up around hustlers, drug dealers, and individuals who taught me a whole lot as I was coming up. But I also learned things I should not do because it would land me in jail or even killed. And so, not saying that my childhood was all bad. I would say that my childhood was a journey. And when I'm sitting around a lot of when I was in the Air Force and I'm sitting around a lot of my teammates, I learned that my childhood was very unique. Single parent home, but there were men that helped to raise me as my mom would date and so forth. But overall, it was a guy that just grew up with very humble beginnings, but had people around me who showed me the right way and who pointed to another direction, which happened to be the Air Force back in 1999. Well, 5.
Oh, you're making me old. I joined in 1987. What kind of student were you, Casey?
Look, I was a strong B+.
Yeah, that's good.
I was a strong B+. Now, I was a strong C- throughout the entire 6 weeks until, I had to put it in gear, and I got to a B+ now. So I was a good student, man. I played basketball. So for me playing basketball, I definitely had to meet that grade point average. So I played, like I said, playing ball, kept me in the game, made me more focused on getting the grades I needed to be able to stay on the court.
All right. Small forward?
I played all positions. I played forward. I played center. I tried to play the guard, but then my coach would put me back to the low post again. Wanted to do the shooting guard, put me back to the low post again. But yeah, I played a couple of positions.
So you joined the Air Force. I imagine you saw the opportunity, like you mentioned, to leave Lafayette and change the stars. I often say my dad did that as well. My dad is retired from the Army. He grew up as a sharecropper first in Kentucky and then a fruit picker in California. He joined the Army He got his GED, changed the stars for his kids, and then I look where I'm at. So I imagine you saw that, an opportunity to just take off. And what did you sign up to be in the Air Force?
So I signed up to be in the medical field.
Okay.
That was what I signed up for initially. And then we got a call that I can come in a little earlier. And due to circumstances, the things that happened in the neighborhood, things that happened to a family member, I was like, hey, I want to get out of here as early as I can, right? And so they gave me a call and they said, hey, we have 3 positions open. And I believe that's the recruiting tactic here. We have 3 positions open. And then those 3 positions will be part of the buddy program. And so I joined with 2 of my friends I grew up with. And so now when it came down to me leaving early, because I was on the delayed enlistment, it required me to change my Air Force specialty code. And so I ended up coming in as a weapons technician, so a bomb loader. And so that's what I did all of my career. So I was a 2W1 guy that put warheads on foreheads.
What did your tech school look like?
Oh, man, it was in Shepherd Air Force Base, man. It was chill. You know, it was my first time getting on the plane, flying to basic training. Then we bus to Shepherd. That was my first time actually leaving, I would say, a 3-hour, 4-hour radius of Louisiana.
Wow.
I think the only time I went out of town, which was a little longer, I'd say 6 hours, was Houston, Texas, where the majority of my other family lived. So I only knew Lafayette and Houston. That was it. That's the only places I've been. But then now flew to San Antonio and then bust up to Shepherd Air Force Base, which was, it was chill. I mean, I paid attention, listened to the things I was supposed to do.
Let me ask you this. On your way up from Lackland, did the bus stop in the middle of nowhere to have chicken fried steak?
No, they didn't do that. It was a straight shot.
Oh.
It was a straight shot.
So there used to be a restaurant for decades. I mean, for decades and decades, for everybody that was going to tech school in Shepherd, and you would stop in the middle of nowhere, and you would have chicken fried steak and cream corn and mashed potatoes. So that place must be out of business. So it was only it was only open for that.
Yeah. Oh snap! I did not know.
Wow.
No, that was the 80s. They see the 90s. They didn't do that.
Yeah, that's funny. So what was your first assignment, Casey?
First assignment was Pope Air Force Base, No Hope Pope, and I was told about Pope. I actually wanted Pope because my sister, she joined the Army, and so her first base and where she resided was Fort Bragg. And so when I got Pope, I was excited.
So you got Pope as a bomb loader. So you must have been there for that very small period where they had airlift and fighter aircraft.
Yeah, so they had airlift. They had the C-130s, and they also had F-16s. But I went to tech school. My tech school was A-10s. And so 16s were on location for about 7 months. When I got there in 96, 16s were there, and then we rolled them out to Cannon Air Force Base. And then we brought in the A-10s that came from Georgia.
So were you there after the accident on the green ramp?
I got there afterwards.
Okay.
That was one of the reasons, yeah.
Yeah, one of our prior guests runs the Georgia Veterans Day Parade, Kevin. And so he was actually injured in that accident on the green ramp.
Oh, wow.
So you moved to Pope, and was your sister still there at the time?
She was there for probably a year. Once I got there. So we got time to spend about a year together. But she actually went to, I want to say she went overseas at that point. I think she got Camp Humphreys. And then she came back to Fort Bragg because they had a 19-year stint at Fort Bragg overall in their career. But then I got orders when she was on the way back. I got orders to Korea and then Tyndall. And so we missed each other at that point. And then toward the latter end of my career, I would say probably at my 17, 18-year mark, this was around 17, 18-year mark. She got back to Bragg, and then I was actually at Seymour Johnson, and then we had maybe a 4 or 5 month period where we was close to each other, some distance from each other. I was able to go and hang out, a couple of hours, right? Seymour Johnson, Fort Bragg is not too far, but I was able to go hang out just a little bit.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I got actually stationed with my brother. My brother's a retired Air Force, so he was a dental tech for most of his career.
Wow.
And he was at Scott Air Force Base, working in the wing. I was working in headquarters Air Mobility Command, and he was the one who convinced me to become a first sergeant because he was a first sergeant. So that was a pretty neat experience. So, hey, Casey, I got to ask you this. I just noticed something. So you're at Pope, and then Seymour Johnson, Chief Bass was at Pope and Seymour Johnson. Did you know her at those two locations?
I did not know her. Crazy. I did not know her at Pope Air Force Base.
Yeah.
However, one of my best friends, Jay Harris, either she was his troop or vice versa. I think, was it? Yeah, one of the two, but they were connected, right? Either they worked in the same unit. I think either it must have been where, yeah, she brought him in. She onboarded him into their career field. They were the same career field. And so, yeah, but I did not know her at Pope. And I did not know the previous SimSAF, who was a Pope alumni, who was there at the time too.
Right.
I think before me. So no, did not know him during that time. Now her and I, we met in Germany. She was the top 3 president. I was the top 3 vice president on Ramstein Air Base.
Yeah.
So we met back in 2009, 2010.
Okay. So we have so much in common. So I was stationed at Ramstein about 6 years before you were.
Wow.
I was also stationed at Seymour. When were you at Seymour?
I got to Seymour in 2012 to 15.
I retired in 2007. So Goldsboro, North Carolina. So I going into Goldsboro, North Carolina. I don't know if they still have the sign, but there used to be a sign. Winner of Best Small Town Community in 1986. And then I always kid around. They won the award and they gave up.
Yeah, because it wasn't there when I got there.
It was so depressing. I wanted to go there. I think it was like number 5 on my dream sheet when I went to the First Sergeant Academy. I had a great commander. I was the first sergeant of the comm squadron. I really liked it. But the local area, beside good barbecue, I did not appreciate.
I would say when I left Germany to go to Seymour Johnson, and by far, I would say that was probably the most anger I ever had in getting an assignment.
Yeah.
And then I would say when I was probably midway through my assignment looking back, right, midway through my assignment at Seymour Johnson, I began to love Seymour Johnson. Yeah. And when it was time for me to go, it was definitely a hard decision. Like, man, of course I wanted to leave because I was going to a job that I was really passionate about, but it was by far one of the best bases I've been at. And I'm a faith guy, and I believe that God, although I did not want to go to Seymour Johnson, God knew the right place for me to be with me and my 3 sons. And so when I got there, like I said, it was rough, but by the time I left I had probably the worst time of my life when I was stationed at Seymour Johnson, and the family, the camaraderie, the things that happened there, I would say was probably the best experience to date in my life, being at Seymour Johnson.
Wow. So interesting. Let's talk a little bit about your career advancement. You became a chief master sergeant in the Air Force. So an E9. So for my non-Air Force and non-veterans that tune into Tango Tango, an E9, only 1% of the Air Force makes it up to the E9. So just 1%. And you were one of those 1%ers. Let's talk about your career progression. I'll tell you a little bit about mine. I flew operationally for 3 years out of Charleston, and then I got into flight test, and I loved flight test. I was 3 years in Wright-Patterson, and then 5 years out at the Air Force Flight Test Center in Edwards. Amazing assignment, but man, I kind of lost my way. I was the only airman aviator in the command for a while. There was only 4 load masters, and I didn't have great mentors talking about career progression. And then making staff sergeant, honestly, was slow at the time. I made it at 7.5 years. I pinned it on, which sounds like a long time, but I was actually above the curve. The first couple of times I tested, I needed over 100. And then something clicked. So I moved to Germany, actually, and it clicked. And I flew through, got promoted to E6 pretty quickly, got promoted to E7 quickly, missed a senior by a half a point when I decided to retire right at 20. But did something click in you, or were you always kind of motivated for that next rank?
No, when I came in, I had low expectations because I knew I was only doing 4 years and I was going to get out and go play basketball because my goal was to get to the NBA. And probably by my second, third year in, I realized I ain't going nobody knowing the NBA. So I re-enlisted. And when I re-enlisted, I only came in for 4 years. Yeah. My other friends, the other 2 that I came in with, they came in for 6. I came in for 4. Kirk did 4. The other one came in for 6, but he knew he was only going to do 1, right? I knew I was going to only do 4 years and go. So I didn't take the extra stripes and nothing of that. I was an airman basic. And so knowing that I did not get that opportunity, right? So I had to work from the airman basic, work from there. And I wasn't the motivated kid. I wasn't the guy that was out there playing the system and doing all I can to get promoted. I was focused on playing basketball. I was playing on the base team. We would travel, did all these different things. I had a family. And so that was my goals. And then until I met a guy who was like, man, you can go so far. And so it wasn't until I got back I went to Korea and then from Tyndall, went to Korea and then to Tyndall. And when I got to Tyndall, I had a supervisor, Mike Mena, who was like, he sat me down and kind of gave me the business, right? Like, you can do so much, man. How many classes have you taken? Have you done this? Have you done that? And I'm in the weapons career field. He said, if you just take a couple of classes, he said, you're going to set yourself apart. So I just started chunking away at taking classes back in 2002, started chunking away taking classes. And I started to see that even in the weapons career field, by just doing a little more, I was set myself above a lot of my peers. And so that put me in a position years later where I became a PME instructor, got me exposed to people like that soon to be, of course, Simsaf Bass, retired individuals who were prominent that you see across the Air Force today, individuals I was part of my circle growing up. And I just saw things in them that I did not see in myself, which I wanted to be like. And so I went to PME, professional military education, started to get rank and move up in titles at that point. And right around my 17-year mark is when I was basically up for Chief Master Sergeant. And this is something I have not shared. I don't think I've ever shared on the podcast, but I'm going to share it with you, Lloyd, because we're in a safe space, and I had the #1 board score when I tested for Chief my first go around. And let me tell you the most embarrassing thing in my life, and I'm even embarrassed to say it right now, is that when you looked at that score sheet, you saw that was the individual who had the highest board score who did not get promoted. Yeah. That was me.
Hey, I know how you feel, brother. I had the second highest in the entire Air Force as an E8, and I got a line. I actually went to the Senior NCO Academy as a non-select, the second highest without getting promoted. I feel your pain.
I was #1. The best board score in the Air Force did not get promoted. The second year, I was in the second grouping, did not get promoted. My third year, I had the top 5 board score, did not get promoted. But let me tell you why. And I'm only sharing this here. And I hope there are some good investigators out there. Be like, I'm gonna go check this thing out if I could. I think I shared this with you. Seymour Johnson, one of the worst times of my life, lost somebody very close to me. Went through a divorce 3 years prior, ended up from Germany now in Seymour Johnson, was moving into a different area in my life, met someone new, she passed away. I was a single parent now with 3 sons. And so I got picked up for this position that was going to take me to San Antonio. But I also knew that if I were to make E9, that I would have to go back to the weapons career field. And being a chief in the weapons career field means that that was going to be things I would have to, in order to be successful as a chief, in order to do right by the Air Force as a chief. I will tell you that there are ways in which you can just go in and just mark certain answers and just go A all the way down, B all the way down, and call it. I cannot confirm or deny I did that, but I will tell you is that if you choose to put A all the way down, there's a good chance you're gonna get 25 on the test. But in all seriousness, I really had to think about my career. I really had to think about my boys. And the most grateful thing, especially in my faith, I would say, I am happy I did not go in there as a #1 board scorer and make Chief Master Sergeant, because I was not ready to be a chief for no airman. I was going through so much pain, so much hurt, so much depression. I wouldn't have been a good chief. But it came to my third time where I was like, you know what? There are too many people who invested in me. I don't want nothing to happen to my boys. I don't want to lose them because I had custody of them. But I said, but it's time I do right by my mentors. I'm ready mentally, physically, spiritually. When it was my time, it was at my 20-year mark. I went in there and I blew it out the water. I'm like, I'm ready to be a chief. I'm ready to be an E9 in our United States Air Force, and I want to take care of him. And I went in there and I put forth my best effort and I made chief.
How did you become there mentally, physically, and spiritually? So what changed your mental?
One was, and I'm going to say this openly, is that, and the culture I grew up in, and I'm not going to say it is African-American culture, is a certain culture, whatever. I'm going to say in my culture growing up, we didn't talk about mental health. I saw a lot of people in my family, in my world in Lafayette struggling with certain things, and those things you don't talk about. We don't know medical history, we don't know anything. We just some things we don't talk about. And then if you want to switch it to more of men, there's some things that we hide for what I've learned. And so I got to a point where I was struggling so much that I had to go get mental help. And I remember walking into the office, talking to my boss at the time, and I said, "Hey, I'm looking at my life right now, and I don't want to be here. I need to figure it out." And then he's like, "Man, you got so much to live for. You got so much going on. Like, that's not what you see. It's not what I feel." And he directed me over to get some help. And that was the best decision I made in my life, was to get some help. And I would say not allowing myself to think about the past and what happened, and not think that what happened was to me, but what happened was not necessarily about me. My faith got me a decision, and that decision was made. And so what I had to do was live with it and find a way to live through it. And it wasn't until I got help where I was able to truly understand that. And of course, getting more close spiritually with my faith and understand that there's always a purpose and there's a reason why I'm here. And so that helped me through it, man. That took 6 months, but I would tell you, here it is, man, this is now, you talking 12 years from that situation. And I'm still getting mental help. I'm still getting things I need to get myself through things that, I may feel, or things, other hurt I've been through. And so I just thank God that he was able to get me through, I would say the most chaotic time of my life.
Well, kudos to you for getting that help. And then follow Casey on LinkedIn. And Sarah loves herself some Casey. Sarah's my bride. She loves your posting, and just that you share your feelings, you share the struggles, you encourage others to get help. I think it's a pretty tremendous, and you're changing the narrative that needs to be changed, not only in the military space, but in the veteran space. We have too many brothers and sisters that are harming themselves each and every day. And I think the more people with bravery that step up, like Dr. Keith Casey Castille, it's going to serve the community so well. So thank you.
You're so welcome, man, Lord. But I felt like I had to do that. I've gone back, Lord, and look at your post, man. And since we've connected through the Veteran Leadership Program at the Bush Institute, man, we have great lives. Yeah. We have great lives. We got great brides. We got grandpas. You name it. Like, life is good. But people only see what we want them to see. Yeah. And when they walk up to us, what they see, Lord? They see success. They see greatness. And they don't know that there was some struggles in that. Yeah. And so I remember someone coming to me one time, and I know this has happened to you 1,000 times, Lloyd, where someone comes to you and say, "Man, how can I be just like you? Or how can I get to where the success you're at?" And I felt obligated to now, not because of that, but I had a conversation with that person, and I felt obligated at that point that you only seen the good. And if you only seen the good, then you think that I got it all together and I got everything figured out, and I don't. And so I wanted to share that bit of vulnerability, because people also need to see that behind the successful husband, me and you, right, there's a bride that's helping us through the pain points that we have experienced, the things in life that we had to go through. And transition wasn't easy, right? And you see all the great things I'm doing now, but trust, there was some pains in my initial transition. So, but I wasn't showing that, but people thought that that's what it was. And I wanted to share that vulnerability, because I want people, when they struggle through transition, they struggle through maybe someone passing, that we've been there. Like, reach out, like, let's get through this together. You don't have to suffer alone. And I felt that was warranted and needed.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so thankful for the veteran community in Atlanta that I established, or helped establish, that helped me through my struggles. And the men and women on the Atlanta board that hugged me and saw some very weak points. If that community wasn't there, my life would be not what it is today. So you've seen me be very vulnerable. So, but with that, before we start tearing up both of us, now you're a chief master sergeant. What does life look as one of the one percenters?
Man, let me tell you, especially because that boss that was on your show, she has mentored me. She has groomed me for certain positions in life. She's gotten me ready for when the opportunity comes, I will be ready. that being a chief, I learned early on that it's not about me. I'm the 1%, but it's about 99%. If you think that you're going to be in any way helpful and being of a lifter to the 99% that need you by thinking about you being the 1%, you're going to be a loser. And so it wasn't easy. It was hard. And I would tell you, one of my first instances, especially getting into the I would say senior enlisted leader realm, was when I experienced some things at Seymour Johnson, where, well, one, it was an individual who tried to commit suicide, high ops tempo, to you name it. And those things, you're not reading this in a book. Leadership book will not teach you how to grow through chaos, right? There are some good leadership books out there, Lord, but it did not prepare me for the people that's going to call audibles every single day, every single minute.
Oh yeah, it's the same thing as a first sergeant. You go to first sergeant, the academy, and you do role playing, and they throw books at you. But it is trial by fire, man. Every day is different, and there's only 3 people in the squadron that know what the hell's going on in an Air Force squadron. It's the chief, the first sergeant, and the commander. And you think you might be in the know? You're not in the know.
Mm-hmm. And Lloyd, you as a first sergeant, every time somebody comes into that office, what do they say? What's the one line they say when it's time to hand them the smackdown? But boss, they're good people. Everybody good people until they get a DUI.
Get out of my office.
Yeah. I learned that early, man. I remember Colonel Baldwin. He was like, KC, one thing you need to learn as a chief is everybody's good people when they're in trouble.
Yeah, like everybody in prison is innocent.
Yeah. Well, that is true. That is true. In their head.
Oh, yeah. The stories that chiefs and first sergeants can tell on what their troops do. You could write books and novels and volumes of books, because some of it's sad, some of it's pathetic, and some of it's just damn right funny, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's a real movie.
So fast forward. So you get selected by Chief of Master Sergeant Joanne Bass to come work with her up in the Pentagon. What did that call look like? And then how was the initial period of that job?
So there was some things happening behind the scenes. I'm never going to share, but there was some things that was happening behind the scenes, and I got a call, right? And it was a great call, but it was kind of in a turmoil time because we already bought land in San Antonio. I was at BMT. I've been to jobs already where I felt like I've reached the pinnacle of my career. And I'm a senior enlisted leader in one of the units at BMT. And I'm like, man, this is where we're going to retire. But one of my goals and dreams was always to work at the Pentagon. But I knew I would never get there because there was only one position there for my career field. However, when I got the call saying, hey, the stars may align, things of God, whatever. Now, hey, would you be willing, boom, boom, right? In the conversation, and got the call and say, hey, I want you and Natalie to think on this. And we already thought on it. We was like, hey, we coming to DC. Because the thing of it is that although Simsaf Bass was the first female, and you start going through all the first, right, of what she was and what she was during that time. What I knew of her was a very smart, passionate, caring, and someone who was going to take the Air Force a step further than the person who left it to her, which is a great thing, right? Because that's the goal. How do we take it 2 more steps further from, matter of fact, the person before her, one of the greats? And to me, I felt like when she was nominated for that position, when she was in that position, I felt that everyone that loved her, cared for her, that truly loved her and cared for her had her back. And so whoever she called, they answered that call and they said, hey, we're all in and we're gonna be there, matter of fact, in 30, 45 days. And so that was more to the phone call. That was more to the movements of things that happened. But long story short, the phone call happened, the opportunity was there. And I knew that for me, that I had to be behind my sister as she go on to take a position of leadership in this world that was going to be, was going to be a sight to see, and that she's going to do some amazing things for our Department of the Air Force, our Air Force at the time. And I was just happy to be a fly on the wall, to be a part of that and play a small part in the success that she had and what our Air Force had.
Man, I bet you were smoking busy in that job.
So she brought me to the Pentagon, but my job initially, I worked in A1, which is our human personnel kind of directorate. And so I was doing force development. So basically, if you work at the Pentagon, you know you have 10 bosses, right? So even though you work for a colonel or SES, you better believe where you work as a chief, you had direct access to the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force who had equities in what you were building. You also worked for a 3-star. You also work for the chief of staff in so many ways because that's the triad of the top, right? So they're working their things. And so I just remember we were working a product and she called us on a Friday with the rest of her team. And she basically told us about the thing that we were working on. And she basically told us at 2:00 on a Friday, we've been working our butts off for this. Like, I mean, our butts off. And she basically was like, you know, after all this time, this is what you give me, man. And that was her word, man, MEH, man. She even gave me a T-shirt that said that when I retired, man. But the point was, we worked our tails off on this. This is something that the Air Force have never seen before. And all she gave us was man. But here's the coolest thing about that thing she did, because what she did was she lit a fire under me and my brother, Chief Blaze. She lit a fire into us because think about this. To this day, I don't believe she truly looked at what we gave her. But one thing she did know was that whatever we gave her, it wasn't 100%, that we could have given more.
Yeah.
So we actually turned in that product a month later. And do you know that product was, and I kid you not by saying this, was 100 times better than what we turned in our brains initially.
Wow.
And so for her, she knew exactly how to light a fire under us and that what we gave probably wasn't our best. And then we went out and gave more and delivered more for our Air Force. And that was a valuable lesson we learned, was that, yeah, we may be doing something new, but there are people above us that knows that we can do more in the positions that we're in, and don't get complacent. And on a Friday, getting off that call at 2:30 and man, this is not what I'm looking for. I mean, we literally, our hearts sunk for that weekend. We went through the whole, you don't get bad news. First start, you don't get bad news on the Friday, right? You wait till Monday. And that bad news lit us and gave us the steam we needed. I'm appreciative of that early on as a chief, that she did that early on in that strategic level position, because it helped shape the way in which I did business afterwards.
Right.
It's all about giving the best I have. So when you come back to me and you say, hey, KC, I know you can do better. I'm going to tell you right now, I can't do better because I already gave you all I have. I would not turn in a product that I have not given my 100% best. That you can trust.
So what was your high point in that position?
My high point was being able to deliver to the Air Force products and information and a plan and strategy and execution that have not been seen in over, I think to date, we say 30 plus years. I worked in the A1 initially. I moved over to the transformation kind of area of the Air Force. And I moved directly under her office my last year, working the new evaluation system, working transformation for the Air Force overall. And so one thing I learned is that it's not about what you deliver today, because what you deliver today, the airman will see it and it'll be old news come next week. Are you progressing and are you thinking about the airman of tomorrow? And so what you deliver today, you already got to be thinking 5-10 years out. And so that taught me how to structure moving on to this side of the world, structure a business, but also structure my thinking around business. And I felt that was very valuable and a learning experience for me.
Well, we're going to definitely talk about business in a little bit, because that's where you got my attention, is the incredible things you're doing in your business. But before we get there, let's talk about your transition. So you still had some runway in front of you, but why'd you decide to retire instead of going the full 30?
My wife was happy. Opportunity came where I can go do some pretty cool things, some jobs that was going to be made available. And I looked at my wife and I was like, hey, I'm there thinking about doing this for my next part of my career. I got these opportunities. And it wasn't the places or the certain opportunity. It was the fact that I looked at her, and although we've been, at that particular time, we've been married, I think maybe 4 or 5 years, I looked at her and I saw her, how happy she was. And she's like, Keith, I'm ready to, whatever you want to do, I'm with it. And I saw how committed she was to my success and my happiness. And I thought at that moment, what if I not think about myself and I think about her happiness for a moment? And her happiness was more important than my ambition. Because the truth was, when I really had to think about it, I was happy. I had everything I wanted. I had the great jobs. I worked where I wanted to get to this high point, work at a strategic level at the Pentagon, to be at BMT, to work in positions that I can honestly say I have a career that is very unique. And I promise you this, if you go and you do any research, you'll find that my career is one of one. One of one. In my own head, right? Everybody got different things, but in my own head, I'm one of one in the things that I've done, and the jobs that I've had, the things that I've done, the things that I've learned, and how people have invested in me. And I can honestly say I'm one of one, and that I felt there was no more to give. That the Air Force was in great hands, and my wife's happiness was more than an ambition to go do something more and conquer something new. Maybe it was time to conquer something new on the entrepreneurship side.
Again, we have so much in common. I made the same at 20, and we both retired when we were absolutely still in love with it. We know veterans that look back at their service and speak about it like disparagingly, and I look back and wow, I'm still in love with it. 19 years later, I'm in love with the U.S. Air Force. That's not to say some parts of it didn't suck, because that would be a lie. But as a whole, I absolutely love the Air Force and left it at a good time. So I know with spending some good quality time with you in Dallas and DC that you did struggle. It doesn't look like it when you look at the success you had. So let's talk about the transition. Let's talk about, I definitely want to know about all the successes you had, but maybe some of the failures on the way to get to where you established your own business. You're traveling to Africa. You've got these great contracts. You're teaching in foreign governments. You're working with Recurrent IO, the company that owns the military conference, and doing those amazing things. But brother, how did you get there?
Man, through struggle. When I realized that my identity was wrapped up into what I did for 28 and a half years. And I also realized that I lost faith, and I lost parts of me that should have been focused on my faith and knowing my identity belongs and falls in line with his principles. And what I've come to learn is that when you're wearing a uniform, especially as an E9 chief, you're wanted, you're needed. And then when you take off that uniform, it's not that you're not wanted, not needed. It's just that the system continues to move on because there's more chiefs. That's people that's in the system that requires them to lead, and they don't need you anymore in that sense. You're the old guy, you're the uncle now, right? And so I didn't understand that. From 300 emails a day to 0 phone calls now, 0 emails. And it's like, man, I'm not needed. And what I had to realize was that it's time for me to move on in a good way. And so by my 6th, 7th month mark, I realized I need to move on in a good way. And I said, you know what? I'm going to invest my time and effort into this company, C2H. And so when I started to put my time, my opportunity, and some brain power towards the thing I loved, which is leadership development, workforce education, workforce solutions, I felt that was in line with what my passion was. And so that's what I moved into, right? But my transition was hard because it took me 6, 7 months to realize that this side of the world is different. And if I don't start thinking different, then I'm going to be left behind. The hardest part of it was that, especially when you're about to retire, people make promises. People tell you things. You think you're going to be all well off because you work somewhere, you know certain people. The truth is, what got you there won't get you the next place. You know, what got you here won't get you there. And so you still got to continue to work. And the repetitions you had for 28 and a half years, you're going to have to use some new muscles now. Yeah. There's some things called business development, return on investment, supply and demand that we didn't have to worry about when we were in because we got paid on the 1st and 15th. We had a mission, we had a task, we got those things done. But now, if you're not producing, we don't need you. So I had to learn new muscles. I had to learn new muscles and create new muscle memory.
Yeah, I often say the first 7 years at UPS, I worked way harder than I ever did in the Air Force. I mean, way, way harder. I had more stress and, different type of stress. And I mean, it was hard. I was blessed because I jumped into a great position. My transition wasn't a big deal. But once I got in it, I had to figure out a lot of stuff, just like you. You had to figure out a lot of stuff. So let's talk about C2H. So what was your vision and what exactly is your company doing?
My vision when I first started was just to go in a room, whether it was workforce development, leadership development, executive coaching, to go in the room and change one life. That was the goal. Right off the bat, we got an opportunity to go work in Zambia, did some work for helping build gender-based violence policy, helping with mental health awareness, and also a trainer. We got a second opportunity to go work in Tunisia, doing the same thing, right? And so that was, to us, that opened up my eyes that we don't not have to just be a leadership development company. We can be a workforce solutions company, because we have people on our team who've done some amazing things and they have the brain power behind what they did. And we can turn this into a monetized business. And so we kind of moved into an area where we're more about workforce solutions. We got opportunities to work with some Fortune 500 companies. We moved more into the corporate space and the government space. Now we're taking some time and effort to actually learn the government system and get prepped for the government system. But overall, in our first year was all about learning. And so that's what we did for a year. Now in our second year, and the goal of the second year is we're going from red to black. Is because that first year was about learning. You spend a lot of money. And then the second year is about, now for us, it's about buying the systems and the process and building the processes that makes things repeatable so you can go in front of a client and actually convert. And so now we're more of an organization that's all about workforce solutions, whether it's an AI integration, whether it's in executive coaching, or even to building apps for other companies. And so that's some opportunities we've had over the last year and a half. And so, yeah, we're just in the process of building and seeing what this thing looks like. So I'm excited about where it goes, where it's going. This year is looking pretty good with the opportunities that we're getting, and then also the things that we're prepping for. And so it gives me a lot of excitement, especially with the team that's behind me, a team that's grinding every single day.
So where can interested potential customers find you guys?
Oh, C2HTransform.com. That's where you go, C2HTransform.com. You get to that page, you'll see a link that says connect with us. And I promise you, within seconds, that KC bot will come right back at you and ask for more information, and we will connect. Yeah. My team will be on the call with you ASAP. And the one thing I love about what we're doing in C2H, that yes, it is a for-profit business. We got to eat and our family's got to get somewhere, right? But it's the things that we're doing that's changing lives. And I strongly believe that is where the magic happens. People don't buy into your company until they buy into what you're actually doing and how it's shaping their business and also shaping their return on investment. I said, again, their return on investment. And their return on investment, not just the hardware and the things that they have, it's the people in which gives them the drive and the purpose and the motivation to wake up every single day to put their sweat and tears behind their mission, right? And that's the mission of the company. And we found ways to ensure that people are invested into their mission of what they're doing versus more focused on themselves. And that's through some of the methodologies that we use.
Very cool. So, hey, let's talk a little bit about Recurrent and the Military Influencers Conference, because Cortez has this amazing vision and Catherine's helping him execute it. And they've been really focused largely on the conference themselves, but they've made an investment and they're starting to expand in different cities and do stuff, as we say, of Atlanta, between the summits or between the conferences. And you've been a big part of that. And that's why you're traveling to Florida right now. So can you talk a little bit about that expansion and then specifically what you're up to?
To be honest with you, I'm a very small part. If anything, 0.001% of anything that they're doing right now. And Kathy, she saw something in me right when we met. She was like, man, I want you to be a part of our team. And I told her about what I'm doing in my company. And, we couldn't figure it out early on because I'm so busy doing other things. And all of a sudden, 4 months ago, we had a big conversation. She was like, I really want you on my team. I really want you on my team. And we can work this thing out. And we figured out a way to work it out and where I can be a part of this team and add value. And where I'm adding value is the Air Force side. And I want to stop and pause there for a second and say something about Kathy. Is that Kathy saw something in me and she saw something doing our VLP. And what she saw was, I think, was that this individual here, he's good at what he does, but he also needs a new circle. And one thing I thank God every day for was meeting my new sister that allowed me to know that I need to change. I need to build a different circle outside of my military network. And nothing against my military network. It was just that my circle that I had was not helping me where I needed to go next. And don't get me wrong, I have a large circle of new military friends that we're doing some pretty cool things together. But if I wanted to be successful on this side of the railroad track, is I need to build myself around new people. And so I've joined this team. Kathy's allowed, I would say the last 3 months, I've learned a lot. I'm growing as an individual, as a person, but I'm also growing as an entrepreneur. So I thank her and I thank Cortez, one, for believing in me and for giving me the opportunity. Everybody don't give you opportunities, right? And so what I do for them is strategy and engagement. So we have these different events that we put on. We have these big conferences that we're happening, of course, September, the Military Influencer Conference. And my job is to connect with the right people, the individuals, customers, clients, businesses, to help ensure that we have the resources and the things that our military connected community needs. And so that requires a group of people to go out and do the grunt work. And that's what the Recurrent team led by Kathy do. We do the grunt work behind it. I'm learning. I'm new to this. Fail every day at some of the things. I'm learning some new stuff. But I will say this is that I'm excited to be amongst this amazing team. It's not a day that's not funny or something amazing happening within the Recurrent military family. I'm happy to have the two families, the C2H family, my Recurrent family, and bring this all together and do great things for our military community.
I always admired a Cortez, and then I got to see the power behind the scene, Kathy, and admired her behind the scenes. And so getting a chance to spend some time with both of them and you personally over the last year, it's been a year. Holy cow, coming up on a year.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. It has been a real honor. Man, I can't wait to be more involved. I'm going to be big and large and at Military Influencers Conference wearing all the hats I do this year. But
look, I'm in the middle right now. Like I an event that's starting in like 4 minutes.
I love what you guys are doing. I'm a big fan. Keep it up, because as you said, you're changing lives, and it's all about connecting dots, and that's what military influencers do. They connect dots and inspire people, and through all the stuff that Recurrent does, just not Mick, but the sponsors group and stuff. I'm a big fan. So, hey, Casey, it's been it's been an hour. We could do this for 2 or 3 hours, but you got an event to get to. So you're going to give you an opportunity to provide some closing comments.
I'll close up by saying this, Lord. Thank you so much for all you're doing for the veteran community. Thank you so much for being a lifter in our community, and not just the military community, but helping so many people. And I wouldn't even say the Atlanta area, but throughout the country, throughout the world, because I know individuals are taking the lessons that you are sharing and imparting upon people, and they're bringing it to where they're at. And so I just want to say, one, thank you for what you're doing. And thank you for bringing that message even larger with Tango Tango. I'll also say that life is meant to be lived. Whether you're having those hard points during transition or whether you've been through some chaos, some turbulent times in your life, the thing is that if you're part of this military community and you're struggling, there are people that's ready to listen and people willing to take you in and give you a hug and help you through it. Not just help you through and just tell you their war stories. They're willing to be behind you 100%. And so I will close with this, is that what I'm a part of, and not pushing my business here, but saying that what I'm a part of is called connecting heads to hearts. Everything that I do, everything that I'm surrounded by is ensuring that my heart is in it, but also I'm putting the logic behind it. And so everything that I do, and this, even when you listen to this, is all about that head, that heart mentality that we have within not only within our methodology, but within what I live and what I preach every single day. I believe when we lead with our heart and we really think through the logic of things, I believe that we make an impact in this world every single day because we're not missing anything. And so I want to say thank you for being that type of person who's connecting your head to your heart, Lloyd, and also being a lifter all around for us all, man. And for the 36, well, besides you and I, the 35 other folks who are part of our VLP family, they're all lifters too and doing their amazing parts in this tedious journey of ours and helping the veteran connected community.
Casey, thank you. Great closing words. And I'm going to close it like I close all my podcasts. Be like my friend, a retired Chief Master Sergeant, Dr. Keith Casey Castille. Be safe, be kind, and be remarkable.
The Tango Tango podcast is proudly sponsored by Supply Chain Now. Join the Tango Tango community for more inspiring stories. Follow us on Facebook, X, and LinkedIn. Subscribe to the Tango Tango YouTube channel and follow and listen to Tango Tango wherever you get your podcasts.